Hello, listeners. Welcome to the Lone Screenplay Nominee Podcast, where we talk about films that were solely nominated for an Oscar in the writing categories. I'm your host, Matthew Anderson, and today we have Jeremie Romain. Am I pronouncing that correctly?
You are, yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Once again, I should have asked before. Yeah. So, well, welcome to the show, Jeremie. And I want to ask how you doing today.
Thanks. I'm doing great. It's super sunny, holiday from work, so we're doing good.
Awesome. Yeah. And you said you had the day off today because it's what national holiday?
I believe it's Victoria Day, which is like the Queen's birthday or something.
Okay.
I'm glad I have the day off. I don't even pay attention to what the holiday is, but
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah, no, okay, just curious. Yeah, because I remember you mentioned it was some kind of national holiday. I'm like, I wonder what it is, but okay.
Yeah.
So anyways, before we dive into our episode, I always ask our guests questions, whoever comes onto the show. Same questions as always. The first one I'd like to ask is, would you care to explain to our audience what exactly it is you do for a living?
Sure. I'm a marketing director. So I just started a new job like a month and a half ago. So I'm working for an eyewear company. But before, I worked in PR. I worked at marketing agencies, and I spent 6 years at the company that owns Pornhub. But there's Pornhub, there's the free sites, and there's also a division that's like pay sites. I was working for the pay sites in the marketing and PR department. Yeah,
Interesting.
I know.
I literally, the only job I have right now is like, I literally just got one. We're recording this on May 20th, by the way, in case anyone doesn't realize the dates of when we're recording this. But I literally just got a job at Walmart. So, just as a cashier. So it sounds like your job's a little bit more complicated. Mine's just like greet the customers, make sure that all the everything's going through well and such. And that's about it. So.
Yeah, it's a little bit more stressful.
Yeah. So the other question I want to ask is, it's always tough to ask someone what their favorite film is. So I might as well ask what your favorite genre of film is.
I mean, it's kind of boring, but I would have to say like drama.
Okay.
I love a good like 90s thriller, but like drama specifically where there's like amazing performances. That's my vibe.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I hear you. And 90s thrillers, any on the top of your head that you can think of?
I mean, the Basic Instincts and the even stuff like Indecent Proposal, like all those like kind of sexual kind of thriller, like yeah.
I see. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
We're due for a comeback for those types of movies.
Yeah. Didn't you get one a couple years ago called Deep Water?
Oh, the thing with Ben Affleck?
Yeah, and Ana de Armas.
Yeah, no, that was tragic. It was. I don't know what happened because that director. I mean, he's done some great things like Fatal Attraction,
Adrian Lyne.
Yeah,
I think
that was wild.
Yeah. I don't know when we're getting another one of those kind of movies. I guess the closest would be like Poor Things, but that's more sci-fi and
no.
No, I have no idea. I guess right now we're stuck to those shitty 50 Shades of Grey, knockoffs, whatever it was, 365 days. and that shit.
Yeah, no, I try to avoid all those movies.
Yeah,
I have great instinct. Like when I avoid a movie, and then like years later when I finally watch it, I'm like, oh, my instinct was correct. This is trash.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, it's like your buddies, like Nico and Zeddy, who are out there probably listening. I don't know if they are. They're like, oh yeah, no man, yeah, those DC films that you voted for such a long time, yeah, they're totally great, and they're not. Like, oh yeah, Aquaman's totally the bomb, and it's like, yeah, it was a bomb of something. Yeah, enough of that shit. So, so going back to our. So yeah, like I said, you're not here listening to us talk about DC crap. You're listening to our latest episode, which is picked by Jeremie today, The 400 Blows by François Truffaut. Just a reminder to our audience, this won't be a beat-by-beat bulletin presentation like you hear on other channels, but we will be discussing major spoilers for our talk. If you haven't seen the film yet and want to hear our full thoughts on it, watch the film and then come back to hear us talk about it when you can. I don't know when the last time there was a Criterion sale, or if we've already reached one yet from Barnes and
A
Nobles.
few weeks ago, I think.
Okay. Well, so if you're interested in getting your own copy of the movie, I would recommend doing that way. I'm not sure if that's how you saw it as well. But
I saw it on the Criterion channel.
okay, yeah, it's on Criterion channel. Last time we checked, it's on Criterion disc. I think I could be mistaken, but I think I also saw it marketed on Max. I could be wrong.
Oh, we don't have Max here in Canada. Max is kind of bunched into something else.
Oh, damn Canadians. So anyways, so like I said, if you we'll be spoiling the movie, and if you haven't seen it yet, watch it and then come back to hear our full thoughts on it, because I think we have some interesting things to talk about, and I'm curious to know what your take is on the movie as well. But before we do that, I do want to get through our typical production history. Because this is a film released in the 50s, I think it was 59 as I mentioned, it's really tough like a lot of older films nowadays, it's kind of hard for me to find out like much more production details other than like fun trivia facts here and there, but nothing like a scattered like detailed production that you get like on Lord of the Rings and such. But what I did find, which I found a couple things interesting about the production for this, or at least some of the stuff about this, was not only was it François Truffaut's directorial debut, that was more than just a semi-autobiographical film of his life, but it also was made as an elaboration of what the French New Wave directors would embrace. So if anyone out there isn't aware of what the French New Wave is, that's okay. General audiences, unless you go to film school or you do research yourself, most people the general audience probably wouldn't even know. But what it is the French New Wave was a new art film movement that emerged in the late 1950s by various French filmmakers such as François Truffaut, Agnes Varda, Jean-Luc Godard. There's a couple others that I'm leaving off the list because it would take us forever to get through all of them. They rejected traditional filmmaking conventions and explored new approaches to editing, visual style, and narrative, alongside engagement with the social and political upheavals of the era, often making use of irony or exploring existential themes. So, in case you're wondering, well, what kind of movies that has the French New Wave sort of bled into our modern society of films? It actually has. The couple that I'll bring up as examples that took on the influence of that for within our modern society of films. True Romance is one. Uses a fair amount of that. The Before trilogy uses that too, and one of my favorites. I don't know about you, Jeremy. But for me, Birdman. Birdman was an example that I thought did it really, really well, or at least took on those influences. And there's a ton of other reasons why. I did a whole episode on it with Ben Miller on his show. If you ever get a chance, you could hear my full thoughts on that. So yeah. And as far as the movie itself, The 400 Blows, it was selected to open the 12th Cannes Film Festival, which is going on as we speak right now. Well, as of this recording, that is. I'm pretty sure by the time the episode comes up, it's like, yeah, we'll find out who like the top prize winners are. But anyways, so The 400 Blows opened at the 12th Cannes Film Festival, and while it didn't win the top prize, the Palme d'Or, it was able to take home both the Best Director Award and the OCIC Award. Outside of the lone screenplay nod in the original screenplay category at the Academy Awards it also won the Foreign Language Prize at the New York Film Critics Circle, and was nominated for 2 BAFTAs for Best Picture and Most Promising Newcomer, Jean-Pierre Léaud. I think I might have butchered that name. I apologize for all those French people out there. The film has also been touted as various filmmakers' favorite films, ranging from Akira Kurosawa, Wes Anderson, Norman Jewison. Even the 71st Venice Film Festival paid tribute to the film on the event's poster. It included a shot of the young boy Antoni on it. So yeah, so it's garnered a lot of influence, and even Truffaut's films in themselves, or at least even that French New Wave movement, inspired like a lot of films back then, and has provided us with some interesting films, so to speak. And so yeah. And as far as what the log line of the film is, a young boy named Antoni Donnel, who's left without attention from his mother and stepfather, delves into a life of petty crime. And it's essentially a coming of age story that lasts about 90 minutes long. That's the one thing I always like about these movies, is that and for the most part, I did. I don't know about your history with these French New Wave films or these types of films, but the one thing I always appreciate about these films is that by some miracle, if I'm not the biggest fan of the films, they're at least 90 minutes long. They're not padding it out to be like a 3.5 hour slog of a
Right.
film. Like, it's not like The Lone Ranger or any of these, like, whatever, bloated films you have, like the Transformers films, where it's not like, padding itself out just for the sake of it. And it's like, oh, we got to show all the money on the screen. Whereas like the French New Wave, like, one of my favorite films from this era, from Cleo 5 to 7 by Agnes Varda, that's only like 90 minutes long, maybe 100 minutes at most. And,
Yeah.
I appreciate those kind of movies, and this one's like 90 minutes long. And yeah, and I don't know about you, buddy, but I enjoyed it. I thought it was good. I am curious to know why, before I get more into my thoughts on the film itself, I'm curious to know why, out of all the films that you were given from the list, why was it that what made this one stand out for you to where you're like, oh, I got to pick that to cover for the show?
Well, was this your first time watching it?
Yes.
Oh, okay. No, I picked it because like I'm French Canadian, so I thought I would have like a little bit of an upper hand.
Sorry for butchering the names.
It's fine. But also, like the films you guys have done as of now are more recent, so I'm like, oh, let me pick something that's a bit older
Mm-hmm.
to kind of level things off. And also, I think it was kind of surprising to me to see that it got a script nomination, because I feel like most of the movie is kind of improvised. So I thought that was a weird nomination, even though, sure, it's fine, but that's not what I would have nominated it for.
Yeah, we had the same discussion on this. I think it was Ghost World. We had like the almost like exact same discussion where it's like there are other elements of the film we would have nominated outside the screenplay. Like the screenplay nomination is fine, but we're like really, but we'll get more
Yeah.
into that a little bit later on in the show. In terms of like why that could have been a possibility as to why I got the lone writing nod. So as for me, and yeah, I'm sorry, and just double checking, you said you had seen the movie before.
Yeah, I
Okay.
rewatched it this weekend to just to kind of have it fresh, but I saw it maybe like 10 years ago. I'm from a really like a really small town where there was only like one video store growing up, and it was really small, and they would put like the VHS tapes, and then as the new releases came out, like they would be on top, and then the movies would be going down. So the oldest movies at any given point were like 2 years old. So I didn't really have access to like older movies growing up. So it was only like in my 20s when I, obviously the internet and like all that stuff, I was able to kind of go back and see more international films and older films. So I saw that, I must have seen this at like around 25 or so.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, no, this was my first time I'd seen the movie. I'm a little bit familiar with French New Wave. I'd seen a couple of films from this era at Stevenson University. I saw from Cleo 5 to 7 I'd seen, and I think Breathless was another one from this era by Jean-Luc Godard, I believe.
Yeah.
And yeah, both of them are very interesting movies to watch. And yeah, for audience out there, if you're ever interested, I would definitely recommend both of them to see like if they float your boat. But yeah, no, Francois Truffaut, yeah, he's an interesting guy. And the only other thing I had seen of anything from him was his one of his acting credits from Close Encounters of the Third Kind.
Right.
which I would have to assume Spielberg was such a big fan of him as a director, where he's like, I gotta put him in my movie somehow. Like this may be the only opportunity I get, because I don't think he did anything mainstream as an actor. I'm gonna look this up. I
I
could
don't
be.
think so. It's funny because I just read the autobiography of one of the producers on Close Encounters. This woman who fell out because she got into drugs and stuff, but
Oh,
she was a producer on it, as well as Taxi Driver and The Sting. And she
Julian
said that
Phillips.
yes, and she said that Truffaut was like a total pain on set.
Oh wow.
He hated it.
Yeah, yeah. No, okay, so that explains why he hasn't done much major films. He's like, I want to go back to my art house stuff.
Yeah,
I have complete control. Um, yeah, I'm looking
I
through.
have. I've only seen well, apart from because this movie, there's like 4 sequels to this with the same character,
Yes.
Antoine. But other than those, I saw the story of Adele H with Isabella Gianni from '75,
Hmm.
and The Last Metro from 1980 with Catherine Deneuve and Gérard Depardieu.
Gotcha. From François Truffaut's filmography.
Yeah,
Okay. Yeah, the only other films, actually, I did see Stolen Kisses from him. I'd already seen that for a podcast. What was it for? The 1 Inch Barrier podcast for Juan Carlos Ollano. You ever heard of the podcast?
I've heard of it, but I haven't listened.
Yeah, it's a really fun podcast. He doesn't do episodes anymore just because he's all caught up on everything he needs for the show. Um, but every once in a while, whenever there's like a new international winner, it's like, yep, I'll do it. I think that he already did one for either he already did one or he's going to do one soon for the Zone of Interest.
Oh,
I'll look into that. But yeah. So, anyways, yeah. So going back to 400 Blows, yeah, it was interesting, and that he technically did like, 4 other movies with this character and Tony. After this, with the same actor as well, and it's interesting because I I can't really think of another director on the top of my head, except for maybe Richard Linklater, who did the Before trilogy. I can't really think of another filmmaker who, like an art house filmmaker, who decided to do a sequel to, like one of their earliest films, or at least the one that put them on the map and said, I want to do more films with this character. I can't think of another one outside of Richard Linklater. There might be a few that I'm not thinking of at the moment, but you know, because usually when you think of these like other continuation spin-offs or sequels, you usually think of like big studio properties like Disney, 20th Century Studios, Universal. Like they always do these like, big budgeted sequels. But for something like this, it's like, it's so weird.
but to me, I think it's just that they wanted to work together again, and they're like, "Oh, why not use this character?" Because those 4 movies, like, it really doesn't feel like the same character to me. There's no way this kid grew up to be the guy in those 4 movies.
Yeah.
There's like tonally, it's just off, and there's like a weird like humor and stuff that just wasn't there.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've seen the with the same actor from '73 or '74, The Mother and the Whore from Jean Eustache.
No, I don't think so.
That's a long movie. It's like 3 hours and 40 minutes.
Oh,
But
Jesus.
the character that he plays in that movie, to me, would match more the kid from the 400 Blows than the other Truffaut movies.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'm literally just discovering this for the first time. Different director. Okay, no, okay, and I see what you mean. Okay, yeah,
yeah. I
interesting.
think it's on Criterion Channel at the moment, or
Okay,
maybe it left, but it was there a few months ago.
okay, interesting. So, anyways, back to 400 blows. So, yeah, so uh, yeah, so I get the feeling that you really enjoyed the film as well. If I'm correct in saying that.
Yeah, and I mean, like for different reasons. One of them is like just to see Paris kind of shot like that, and the architecture and just like the locations, and the fact that it's super gritty and raw, which from what I've read seems to have been something that was kind of shocking for the time. People were used to more like kind of polished movies, and this was very like real. Um, that's like those are my favorite scenes. Like when the kid is by himself and just like running around. I feel like you can feel the city. Like the city's a real character in the movie.
Oh yeah, definitely. And what I find even funnier is that I think the equivalent of like a gritty look to a film came from the very same year, a little film, I'm not sure if you've ever heard of this, called Ben-Hur. And even then, that was such a big, lavish production that was very Hollywoodized. I'm pretty sure it was. I know for they're that is totally a Hollywoodized production because there's no way anyone would throw that much money for like a nearly 4 hour epic that isn't Hollywood. So, but even then, that still had like a Hollywood feel to it in a good way, though, like for what it's going for. And this is clearly, this is going for a much more naturalistic, realism look to it, which is good. And I liked, yeah, I like that too. I like that it was very gritty. I also like the fact that I don't know if this was either a restriction, a limitation, or if it was just like an intentional choice. But I like that Francois Truffaut decided to do it as a black and white film for his first film, and I'm pretty sure Stolen Kisses was in colors, as was in color, and this one wasn't.
Yeah, all the other ones are in color, or
Yeah.
maybe I don't know if Antoine and Colette is in color. That's the short film from '62,
Okay.
but all the other ones are. Yeah,
Okay. But yeah, but I find it very interesting that, yeah, he shot it in black and white. He had a gritty look to it, and he uses a fair amount of long takes too, which is something that I rediscovered because it's been a while since I've been to film school, but I remember some of the elements that French New Wave inspired in terms of like what they had started in terms of like, we're going to go against the system, we're actually going to do something different for the way we're going to shoot things, the way we're going to edit things, the way we're going to put everything together and tell a story. And a fair amount of that is carried over, like I said, into modern filmmaking techniques, which is good. And so I noticed the long takes. And the other thing I really have to credit the film on, and especially for Francois Truffaut for his directorial debut, I really hate kid actors in films typically, and a lot of it is because the directors just do not know how to direct them. You could, as much as we want to, as much as we want to shit on Jake Lloyd for the Phantom Menace, it's like it really was George Lucas's fault because he just didn't know how to direct kid actors, or maybe he just didn't care at all. And we've seen other great filmmakers who are just like, yeah, he doesn't know how to direct kid actors. But then you see someone like Justine Triet in Anatomy of a Fall, who did an amazing
right.
job with that kid. And I gotta commend Francois Truffaut. Like, he really knew how to direct kid actors, especially the main kid, who like he's the entire story. Like, he's in almost every
Yeah,
frame of the film. And if he does not give a performance that is believable, like, you buy him as this rebellious little shit, but in a way you do understand and you do feel bad for the kid because he's sort of living on his own. He doesn't really have like a father figure in his life because his dad either was split off or ran off or he's dead. Because they don't even mention what happened to the dad, do they?
no, and you kind of only find out that it's the stepdad like later in the film too.
Yeah, which I thought was interesting. And yeah, like the kid just gave like such a believable performance that I was like, this is a really interesting character. And yeah,
I don't know. In your research, did you find anything about like the search for the kid actor?
the only thing I could find for the kid actor, which I thought was really funny, was all the kids in the classroom, and I'm pretty sure even the best friend, they all auditioned for the kid, but
Oh,
they didn't get the part, but he still casted them as classmates of his, which I thought was really funny. It's like, really, like, oh wow, I guess that's one way of getting kid actors. It's just like, all right, you guys are unable to get the role, but you still get a part of the movie. You just won't get the big part is the thing. Uh,
yeah.
but yeah.
On the Criterion channel, his screen test is on there,
Oh, nice.
and it's kind of wild. It looks like the scene from the end when he's just at the table, kind of like talking,
Hmm.
and it looks like it's completely improvised, but he's is so natural and so believable.
Nice. Yeah, but
Yeah.
yeah, no, but yeah, this kid's great, and yeah, he was good in Stolen Kisses, and I'm yeah, like, have you seen the film yet, Stolen Kisses, or no?
Yeah, I saw all the other ones.
Okay.
Yeah, he's good, but he's kind of like, I don't know. It doesn't feel as organic and natural. He's kind of like putting on this like little persona,
Yeah.
and I think he has that like in most of his adult films as well.
Yeah. Yeah. No, and yeah, that's fair. I'm just looking through to see what else there was. Well, the couple things I did like about the film. So I mentioned the kid actors. I thought they were good. One of my favorite shots that, for me, that got me into into the film a lot more was there's that wide shot you see of the teacher on the board, and he's writing out like whatever the story for the hair in French, and he's like, reciting all the words he's saying, and right behind him you see all these kids like imitating smooches and kissing and and I thought that was great. And like he turns around and they all just go back right into like, just like just like, yep, paying attention, yep, not making any mayhem behind you, sir. And I thought that was a great shot. It was real. It was a good comedic joke, and that was one for me early on where I was like, okay, I'm actually getting into the film pretty. All right, that's a good way to get my attention. And
Yeah,
yeah, and yeah, like even the other actors in the film, like the parents do a good job, the teacher involved. The one thing I did have to ask myself though while watching it was, are teachers in France allowed to leave students unattended for detention? Like because I know that for school here in the United States, or at least the school that I went to, whenever we had detention, they would always have a teacher with us, so that way we were doing some kind of work, or
yeah.
we made sure that just things like that. Like even if they just had like a newspaper with them, or they were on their phones or something, or just like reading a book or something, just to pass the time. But I just thought it was funny that yeah, it's
They're by themselves.
yeah.
Yeah.
So, and then before I go into any of my notes, do you have any other notes you'd like to bring up for the film itself? Anything you wrote down?
Just
Or
something that I hadn't noticed this the first time I watched it, but I read about it and then I noticed it this weekend, is that whenever he's indoors, you have close-up shots of him, but when he's outdoors, they're all like wide shots because it's kind of signified that he's free when he's outside. And I thought that comes across really well, and you feel it. You feel kind of the vastness when he's outside,
yeah,
and that's when he like really comes alive.
yeah,
I thought that was a great touch.
yeah. No, and Henry Decay was the French cinematographer. He's no longer with us. He died in 1987 at 71.
Oh,
I'm not sure. So yeah, he's done a lot of work with Jean Pierre Melville, Louis Malle. He made a film with for
okay.
what is it called, The Lovers from 1958. François Truffaut. I'm looking through here right now. Louis Malle for So he's worked with a fair amount of French directors. Boys from Brazil. He worked on with Franklin J. Schaffner. Lewis Gilbert for Operation Daybreak. Okay. Sidney Pollack for Bobby Deerfield. Yeah. So, and yeah, it's funny you mentioned the cinematographer. Yeah, because I didn't even notice that like whenever he's indoors, close up. Whenever he's outdoors, there's always like medium shots, wide shots, and that's interesting to point out because yeah, it was something I never even noticed at all. And like I guess like I wouldn't even really call this as like a close up, but the only kind of close up we see is like when he looks right into camera at the end, and the camera just zooms in on it.
Yeah.
On that still
I was
frame.
going to ask you what you thought about that shot because from what I read, it apparently at Cannes when it screened the first time, like people were kind of shocked at that final shot. Not sure why, but it's kind of revealing, and you kind of see into kind of his soul. But it feels like a complete accident. They just like, oh, and then they freeze framed and went in.
Yeah, the only thing that I could think of on the top of my head, because when I was watching the shot, I was like, okay, all right, that's yeah, it's like a pretty well captured long take, and I'd seen the long take before in class, but we weren't really given much context as to what it was. It's like, yeah, here's the final shot of the movie, and so I think the only thing I came away from it was he's sort of the kid's sort of stuck in this perpetual cycle of like getting into trouble, you know, causing a crime, getting into trouble, and then being thrown back into prison essentially. And it's just going to keep following him for the rest of his life, especially when he didn't really care much for schoolwork. It was like, I'm pretty bored by this. I don't like my teacher. I have snitches in classrooms, things like that. And he's like, yeah, it just, it's like, I want to, actually do a job right now and not have to be stuck in school. But in reality, it's like, depending on the country, it's like, yeah, school's kind of important for you to go through first before you take on said job. Because otherwise you won't get much opportunities depending on where you're at. Maybe you do. I don't know. I mean, then again, I'm like it was like a middle class white boy in Pennsylvania, and I learned the hard way. It's like, yeah, you need to focus, pay attention in school and do all this stuff, and eventually you'll get some job opportunities. They'll come to you slowly, but eventually you got there.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. He's kind of being forced into a bunch of stuff during the films, and then at the end, I feel like the length of this, like when he escapes and he's just running,
Yeah.
the fact that that scene is so long, it feels like he's kind of shedding everything and he's truly free for the first time. And I feel like you because it's that shot is so long, you kind of end up rooting for him, and you also feel that he's kind of going to be okay in a way. I think that was it. That and that final shot kind of just like cements that feeling. He's in control, kind of.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, the fact that like his parents were like, "Yeah, we're done with you." It's like, we don't ever want you to come back home because otherwise you'll just be sent back to another boarding school or another, observatory center, whatever they're called. And yeah, I guess that is, yeah, that you could interpret it as that way. Yeah, of like the kid having his own freedom, and like now he's out in the world and no one's going to be there to stop him. Unless the cops catch him.
Because he's also there's this. It's different from the rest of the film where he's like in the city. Now he's like in the outdoors next to the ocean, and it's just wide, and it's like, okay, this is truly freedom for him.
Yeah. But still, it's a really nice shot. The one note I did had on the top of my head when I was watching it was, how many takes did they do of that? Because of like, I saw footprints of like when the kid's running, there's like footprints running towards where he's supposed to run from the distance, and I'm like, I wonder if they just shot it like different angles to be like, and then the next time they're like, like, all right, let's do another take. All right, do it right here. Oh, we get the house in view. All right, perfect. That's great. So yeah, I kind of wonder what they did, because back then it's like, we don't have computer effects where it's like, oh, we gotta erase the footprints along the way. And I'm kind of glad they didn't do that, just because it's like, I like I kind of like mistakes in these kind of movies. Like every once in a while I see like a boom mic come into frame, not for this movie, just in general for these kind of old movies. And things like that. It's just, it just makes it kind of fun to it makes it, if anything, it makes it nostalgia watch as a nostalgia, watching it as like a nostalgic way. It makes it kind of fun to be like, oh yeah, remember the good old days, so to speak. And but it was, but I thought that was it was a pretty cool shot. And you're right, though, at times the film does feel improvisation at times with the dialogue, especially with the parents, and yet it feels very naturalistic. Like it felt very genuine, like when the parents were arguing with each other, when the son is having a talk with his dad about being in school and make sure that his grades were up and such, or his stepdad, I should say. And even with, where's that, what was it, like the book he was trying to find, the dad,
right.
There was some item that he was trying to find in the house, and the kid's like, I don't know where it is. And there was even that point where he's being asked by the psychiatrist in the observatory center, saying like, do you lie to your parents? And he goes, I try not to, but I sort of like half and half. Like sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. And whenever I tell the truth and they think I'm lying, then I'm like, okay, then yeah, I don't, okay, sure. Sure, I guess I'm lying, so yeah, I'm looking through my notes to see if there's anything else. they want to bring up?
Oh, I wanted to say about the title, because the title in English, it's kind of weird because in French, like the les 400 coups, coup can mean two things. It can mean literally like blows, like being hit, but also it means like kind of like bad tricks or like pranks,
Ah,
and that's really what it means for this movie. But the English translation is kind of more literal, and it doesn't kind of fit. I always thought that was funny.
yeah, I was gonna say 400 blows. I'm like, wait, I'm like, this isn't like a raunchy sex comedy, is it? Involving a kid. I'm like, wait, what the fuck kind of movie am I gonna watch?
Yeah, it should
um,
really be like the 400 pranks.
yeah,
That's
yeah,
kind of what it should be. Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, or like, yeah, that actually, yeah, that would make a lot more sense because the other theory the interpretation I would have of it is like 400 blows is like 400 like slap on the wrist or like slap across the face that the kid would get from like the police and his parents and such. Because they're always reprimanding him and such. Even the teacher is of
Yeah.
like, like your parents are gonna get an earful of you for like drawing on the wall and like it's not cleaning off. It's like your parents are gonna have to pay for the wall. You know.
Mm.
Um, yeah, and then the other elements of the film that I wanted to bring up. Okay, so the one thing I was a little bit afraid of when we started, well, not when we started in the film, but it was when the kid he skips school for a day with his buddy. And he comes in, he doesn't have a note. He tells the teacher like, "Oh yeah, I couldn't come in cuz my mom's dead." And I was like, "Oh god, are we really going to do the whole like liar reveal thing, like we see in every film where it's like we reveal the lie and then everything's just going to drag it out." And thankfully that cut like real quick. Like the
Yeah.
moment that like the other kid found out that the two boys were skipping school and so he went to Antoni's parents' house and told him like, how's your boy? Is he feeling any better? He's like, "What do you mean?" It's like, "Yeah, he wasn't in school all day, and I was just wondering if he was feeling good." And then the parents come in, and they immediately come into the classroom, and they just, the stepdad just slaps him across the face, and then that's the end of that. And I'm like, "Okay, all right, at least we didn't do that cliche, so that was good." Yeah, so as we even mentioned before, like I didn't even realize like the kid that was even his stepdad until like
Yeah.
the candle goes on until the candle like lights up the place, and I was like, oh, okay, I guess that's the stepdad. I assumed it was his dad. And also too, why were there so many cats in Renee's apartment? Like there were at least two or three, and I'm like, is France known for having so many cats, like not just on the street but in people's homes? Like,
No, I don't think so. And I mean, I know a lot of French people, and none of them had cats.
okay.
But yeah, that's kind of, I hate cats and I'm allergic, so like that was really disgusting. To have more than one cat is it's too much.
Yeah, yeah, one cat is already enough for you.
Yeah.
And the other aspect of the film that I did appreciate was when they were drawing. Like one of the kids was trying to write down on the paper at the beginning of the classroom, like trying to dot down all the notes, and then like the ink wouldn't come out of the little hole that was
Mm.
provided by them. And I just kept thinking to myself the whole time, I'm like, you know what? Those bold white whatever there was, those bold pointed pens, I appreciate them now. I don't have to like dip the pen in and make sure there's enough ink in there. It's like, you know what, I'm glad that I have the pens that I grew up with, so that's good.
For sure.
So yeah,
Did you like the score?
the score, funny enough, I thought the score was I actually don't remember much of the score. Not in a bad way, but it was just more like, it fits the movie well enough, I guess. But it wasn't anything that stood out to me as like, oh my god, I was so swooned by it. But yeah, like it works for what it is. I don't know who the composer
Yeah, I mean
was of it.
it's kind of famous because of this movie, but like I don't know, it does fit the movie, but I wouldn't say that I like it. Like it's not my style.
Mhm.
Um, but I appreciate it for like what it is, and the beats that come back when like he goes off, and like it's just it tells its own story as well.
Yeah, I'm reading up on the guy, Jean Constantine. Scott Constantine. I could be wrong. Yeah, sorry about that, guys. I'm looking through, and apparently he wrote one of Edith Piaf's songs, translated to "My Merry Go Round."
Oh,
He wrote like several songs that became hits. That was one, and then wrote several movie scores. And he died the year that I was born, 1997.
hmm.
So but it was interesting.
There you go.
I'm just looking through to see what else he's done. Yeah, I don't recognize any of these other films he's composed. So yeah, interesting. So, but yeah, no, like I said, unless you have any other thoughts on the film, we can go into our like final thoughts on the film itself. So go ahead.
Sure. No, I mean, I think also like cinema plays a big part in the movie, and that's I think the autobiographical aspect of Truffaut. And it seems to be a place where the kid goes to escape as well.
Yeah,
That's kind of cute.
even with the parents for like just for like a fleeting moment or two, like they're all happy and excited. You know, even if the dad didn't like the movie, it's like at least he's in a cheerful mood. The stepdad, I
Yeah.
should say, he's in a cheerful mood where he's like, it wasn't great, but you know what, I'm glad I was able to spend it with you guys. Kind of mentality. That's what I got out of that. And
Hmm.
no, that's interesting. Yeah, because I think even Stolen Kisses also had that too, where the characters like want to go see a movie, let's go to the movies. And Tarantino's like he did that with like True Romance, and Taxi Driver did that with Robert De Niro's character, but it was from like a what was it, like a well actually what kind of theater would you even call that in Taxi Driver? Like a porn theater?
Yeah. It
Okay.
was one of those Times Square porn theaters from the 70s.
Yeah. So, but yeah, no, I definitely see, like, at the end of the day, when I finished the movie, I respected it. I liked it. I could see why this was such a big influence. This and many of the other films from that French New Wave was such a big influence on films like this. But I didn't really emotionally connect with it, like, fell in love with it like everyone else did. Like, I definitely understand, like, if someone were to tell me, like, it's one of their favorite films of all time, like Akira Kurosawa and Wes Anderson and, Norman Jewison. I think even Martin Scorsese even recommended it for, like, for filmmakers and audience goers to take a look into watching this. And I'm like, oh yeah, no, I would too. Like, I would recommend people to see this or seek it out if it's their cup of tea, so to speak. But I liked it overall. I just didn't quite love it, if that makes sense.
Okay.
So, as for your final thoughts,
Yeah, I mean, I think I liked it more the second time around, but it's hard to kind of separate it from its kind of critical, how people see it and how people talk about it. It's hard to kind of see it fresh and kind of objectively. But I do like it, and I think for me, like it's it's not so much the script; it's like the kid's performance and the cinematography. That's what makes it good for me. That's what I would come back to it for.
oh yeah, definitely. I mean, even that, like I said, that kid actor, he was really really good. And yeah, that was something I was also a little bit afraid of too. I was like, all right, so we got to focus on this kid for like 90 minutes. Let's hope the director knows what he's doing and direct the kid actor in a way that feels realistic enough, or doesn't make him too bratty. And no, Jean-Luc Godard, excuse me, wrong guy, François Truffaut. He
Yeah.
did a good job with directing the kid actor. So that was something I definitely appreciated. So moving on to our next section of the podcast, would you say this was worthy of its sole nomination? And would you have nominated the film for something else?
Yeah, I mean, I would. I think, and I think today the kid might get nominated if this was came out today. I think back then it must have been not something that happened all the time. Um, but I'm glad it has the nomination. It's better than nothing.
Yeah.
But I would have nominated the kid, maybe cinematography, and maybe director even.
Yeah, I'm looking through. I don't, you see, with this Academy now, I don't know if the kid would have gotten in for lead, like just at all. Well, just at all to begin with, because this new branch of Academy voters do not like kid actor performances. Like there's a few that but they're like teenagers or like young adults when they got nominations, like not Jesse Plemons. Cody Smith McPhee was one recently for Power of the Dog,
Right.
and Lucas Hedges for Manchester by the Sea. But like, if someone like Jacob Tremblay couldn't even get in for Room, I'm like, I don't know if this kid would have even gotten it at all.
Yeah,
Uh,
I guess I'm thinking more like in terms of international films.
sure,
Like if this had been an American film in that time, I think he would have been nominated probably.
yeah, it's possible. I'm looking also at the director lineup. Four of the director nominees were from Best Picture nominees. So it was Ben-Hur, which won. Diary of Anne Frank, George Stevens. William Wyler for Ben-Hur, George Stevens for Diary of Anne Frank, Fred Zinnemann for The Nun Story, Jack Clayton for Room at the Top, and then Billy Wilder for Some Like It Hot got in.
Oh,
So it was a pretty stacked lineup. Uh,
yeah.
yeah, but I mean, it would have been cool if Francois Truffaut got in for director. I'm trying to even think if he outside of Day for Night. I'm trying to even think of anything true. Yeah, I'm looking up to see if he'd gotten any other Oscar nominations. The only one was for Day for Night, and Day for Night was the only film of his that he directed that at least on his behalf that won some kind of Oscar, and it was international film. That was it.
Mm.
So yeah, I don't know. And then what was the cinematography lineup that year? Because did they have black and white as well? Yeah, they did. So black and white was Diary of Anne Frank, which won, and the others were Anatomy of a Fall, Career, Some Like It Hot, and The Young Philadelphians.
You mean Anatomy of a Murder?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, Anatomy of a Murder. Thank you, Jesus. Yeah, well, wait,
I
what
was
the
like,
hell?
whoa.
Yeah. No, Anatomy of a Murder.
Yeah.
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 We already had two court dramas nominated for Best Picture, and they start with the word anatomy.
Anatomy. Yeah.
Yeah.
And what one?
Diary of Anne Frank.
Oh.
Yeah, I think that was. I haven't seen the film yet, but I bet you $10 it was because even though it didn't really, it was It says here it wasn't really that much of a box office hit.
No.
At least but it might have been one of those movies where it's like we like George Stevens and they love their Holocaust films, and for both good and bad tendencies. Sometimes we get a pretty good one, but yeah, I can't really speak on the quality of the film itself, but I'd have to guess that it was a case of we want to recognize that this topical story. Like, we can't give it the Best Picture prize because we're already giving Ben-Hur those awards, and I think Ben-Hur won every category except for adapted screenplay. That was the only thing it lost, and it lost to Room at the Top, which I just find that very interesting. That Ben-Hur managed to get all those Oscars, and the only one they couldn't get was adapted screenplay, and and as far as like original screenplay. Pillow Talk, which won the Oscar for that, and it beat out 400 Blows, North by Northwest, Operation Petticoat, and Wild Strawberries. Yeah. And I think I'm looking through here. Yep, three of them are three of that year's original screenplay nominations were lone screenplay nominees. So I'll be covering Operation Petticoat and Wild Strawberries down the road. But yeah, as far as what happened there, I'm even looking at Pillow Talk. Like, it got more nominations than any of the other films. Like, North by Northwest got screenplay and another Oscar nod or two, but that was about it. Whereas Pillow Talk, I'm pretty sure Pillow Talk would have made it into the Best Picture lineup in a year of 10 because it got the two acting. It got Doris Day and Thelma Ritter, lead actress and supporting actress nods respectively. Original screenplay, which it won. And then it got production design color, art direction color, and then scoring of a drama/comedy picture. So it got 5 nominations in total. So it was probably that could have helped as to why it won screenplay over 400 Blows, because it was like, this is it's closer to the Best Picture lineup. So, but then we've had other years where it's like the non-Best Picture nominee beat out the Best Picture nominee with like Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind beating out The Aviator, or Sling Blade beating out English Patient. So
And I don't know what kind of distribution 400 Blows had in the US, like,
Yeah,
or what it was
that's.
like for international films back then.
Let me see if I could find that. I don't know why. Okay, hold on.
And I was surprised at the beginning when you said that it didn't win the Palme d'Or because I thought that it had.
The 12th can. I'll just edit some of this out. Just the long gaps, that is. I'm looking through. So the Palme d'Or went to Black Orpheus, which is a 1959 romantic tragedy directed by French filmmaker Marcel Camus.
Okay.
Yeah,
So it just won Best Director. Okay.
yeah, and it won the international prize for the Academy Awards. Yeah, Black Orpheus. Yeah, so that was France's submission for international film was Black Orpheus. So that's why. So they won the Palme d'Or, and then it went on to win the international film. Which, man, if Anatomy of a Fall were allowed to be submitted, and the Academy said, "Yeah, sure, come on in," the Zone of Interest would not be going on. Would not have won international film.
No.
And
It's so funny when they kind of, even for us in Canada, like sometimes what they choose is like not what they should have chosen.
yeah, oh yeah, definitely. And I'm looking through. What did you guys have? Yeah, I think. What was the last film that Canada submitted?
Well, this past year, actually, the film that they submitted is actually was directed by a friend of mine from film school. It's a film called Rojek,
Okay.
but it wasn't. It didn't end up making it.
Yeah, the last one was War Witch from the 85th Academy Awards. And that was the
Shit, that
last
was a
time
long time ago.
that was the last time Canada was able to get a submitted film nominated for an Oscar.
Huh.
And the only one so far to win an Oscar from Canada was Barbarian Invasions. So interesting. But yeah, no, 400 Blows. Yeah, I couldn't really find a distributor in terms of like who distributed it here in the United States. Yeah, I just yeah, but it is, I think that's the other thing too, is like why some of these films just do not get the major recognition from the Academy. Is just they don't have a distributor to back it up. Oh, okay. So the only one I see here, I'm looking through United States, Zenith International Films. They were the ones that did the theatrical distribution, which do they even exist? Let me.
I'm sure it was super limited.
Yeah, so it's they don't have like a big studio with them. Okay, yeah, it's not showing me much. Okay, well, I'll look into this later. But anyways, yeah, but yeah, no, that's like another. Yeah, it's just like France decided to go with another film, Black Orpheus, and they just said, all right, well, won the Palme d'Or, so let's have this be our like big, golden trophy, and carry that over to the Oscars. And that happens sometimes. And yeah, the only time Francois Truffaut managed to accept the international prize was for his film Day for Night, which also got in for director and screenplay. But I don't even think there was no way he was going to win director that night. There was
No.
because he was up
What
against.
year was that?
1970. Well, it came out in 1973, but it was
Okay.
premiered at Cannes in 1973, but it was up for the Oscars the year of Godfather Part 2.
Okay.
So there was no way that it was gonna. Yeah. So it won international film. Okay. So this is one of those weird cases where I'll probably come across this with some of my films down the road whenever we get there. But the film, yeah. So Day for Night was submitted for the year that The Sting won Best Picture, and it won the international prize. Okay, and then despite that, they were still able to compete for director, supporting actress, and original screenplay the next year for Godfather 2. If that makes sense.
Huh.
Yeah, and I'm reading
That's
here just now. Jean-Luc Godard walked out of Day for Night in disgust and accused Truffaut of making a film that was a lie. Truffaut responded with a longer letter critical of Godard, and the two former friends never met again. Jesus, wow.
Whoa.
That is fascinating. Yeah.
Because then 2 years later, he was back at the Oscar. Well, I mean, not him, but Isabella Gianni was nominated for The Story of Adele Ash for Best Actress. And I think she must have came close because that's the year that Louise Fletcher won for Cuckoo's Nest. And that lineup is very weak. And Margaret for Tommy. I mean,
hold on, let me see what the lineup is.
She must have been like second in line.
Yeah, probably like a distant second though, only because I remember One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest was such a popular film, and it still is now.
Sure, but that's a supporting performance.
Oh yeah, totally. Yeah, yeah. But
Yeah.
I guess they were just like, we'll allow this because it has like a bigger impact on the film, and yeah, I'm just looking through. But yeah, no, yeah. That's
because in that movie, like Isabella Gianni, like that's an all-timer performance. She is amazing in that movie.
okay.
And she's young. I think she was like in her late teens, which again, like Truffaut, like great at directing, like not newcomers, but like young people.
20 years old, and made her the youngest Best Actress nominee at the time. Okay.
Oh shit!
Wow. And then Quaventine Wallace came in there and said, I'm gonna get nominated for Beast of the Southern Wild," and she didn't win. She had no shot at winning. It was like, yeah, sorry, girl. No one saw your. I mean, yeah, it made money, but not enough Academy were like, ooh, let's give her the Oscar.
No.
But yeah. But yeah, no, that's interesting. Yeah. Yeah, I'll see. Yeah, I'll try to see Isabella Gianni's Oscar nomination down the road.
Yeah.
It's
great.
It's kind of the problem now that I have now that I mean I'm glad I have a job. I'm able to pay off my loans and such. But the problem I have now is that as a recording, I know that I have at least 2 days off, and every other day this week at least I have work. So it's either like focus on the podcast or spend a time watching a movie, or if I'm not spending time on the podcast, then I gotta watch a movie of some kind, whether it's for my own pleasure or I'm watching a movie in theaters with my brother, or watching it with someone, or I just want to spend the day, watch the movie, whatever. And that's all I have now with my schedule right now at the moment. But who knows? It might change. But I'm pretty sure they're only going to grant me like 2 break days each week where I'm working now. So
yeah, well, I hope so.
Yeah, no, I'm pretty sure because they only schedule us for like up to 40 hours, and we can't go any more than that. But yeah. So anyways, yeah. So that's pretty much it. Any other final thoughts you have on the overall Oscar prospects for the film?
No, I mean, I'm like I said, it wouldn't be my first choice, but I'm glad that it did get that nomination.
Yeah. No, me too. And apparently, it was a big enough hit, at least worldwide, to where it was able to make, I think, like $30 million worldwide. So that was enough to get the Oscar nod. I'm pretty sure it was. I'll just double check this real quick so I don't.
It must have cost nothing to make.
Yeah. They practically were like, 30.7 million they were able to make, and
whoa.
Yeah, but no, that's good though. Yeah, at least maybe it was worldwide. Yeah, but anyways, yeah. So they were able to make their money, and
that's just for that time, or it's like up to now.
It might be up to now.
Yeah, because that movie's had a life since it came out.
Yeah, nowadays it's like, yeah, you're lucky to get like a couple $1 million, and if it does well at the box office, then it's like, okay, cool. But like, and these studio executives nowadays are like, we want $1 billion or nothing. Like, we might as well burn the money if we're not going to make $1 billion. Like, okay, keep digging your holes. Yeah. So, but no, but like I said, I'm glad I got the loan writing nod. Yes, it would have been cool to have seen the kid get nominated and the cinematography to get in as well. Would have been nice, but but as I keep saying this before, and I'll say it again, it could be one of those. It sounds to me like this was one of those cases where the film was popular enough, it had enough of a support behind it to where, all right, we can't get it into major categories, but at least maybe we could try to push François Truffaut for that original screenplay nod. So, yeah. But yeah, that's pretty much it. That's all we have for today. Once again, I would like to say thank you for dedicating your time to be here on the show. Before we sign off, Jeremie, is there anything you'd like to plug in or where our listeners can follow you along?
Sure. I mean, you can find me on Twitter, greenslime1999. Otherwise, that's it.
Gotcha. All right. Yeah, and you can follow me and the show through Linktree under @Matthew995, where you can follow along on all my social media accounts, such as Twitter and Letterboxd. On the same site, I provide a link for where you can listen to more episodes of the show. And if you're interested in being in the hot seat, let me know, and hopefully we can arrange that happening soon. In the meantime, we hope you enjoyed listening to this episode, and we hope to see you at the movies. Take care, guys.